So this is your ground bar. So we are going to take this wire and stab it through like here, and then tighten it. Is it important to keep things tight? Yeah, especially with electrical. Otherwise, what happens? Fires happen. We're better than that, okay? So, we tighten it up. Oh, that's one. Let's get that out of the way. Now, you should never, ever, ever, even if you're a licensed electrician, touch a breaker box. Maybe if you're a licensed electrician. Maybe if you know what you're doing. But anybody else, probably shouldn't. Sure you got anything on your heart?
Nope.
No? Okay. So that's good and tight, okay? I'm gonna tuck that out of the way. Now, we got our neutral wires. That's these two white ones. Okay, this is for two separate circuits, so I'm doing two at once right now. We're gonna take these, we're gonna cut them off. We don't need all that. We're better than that. We're gonna strip them back. And we're gonna put these in their places. Can you guys see what's going on over there? Drew, you feel like you know what's going on?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Drew basically knows everything.
Just about.
Yeah, and that's a lot. Mm-hmm. I know basically nothing, and that is a fact. Which brings up an important point. You know that everything in life is mislabeled? If somebody's like, let me tell you how honest I am, guarantee that person's a liar. Guarantee. If somebody's like, oh, I'm making a great deal, I'm like, you're lying. You're making money off of this somehow. If somebody's like, I'm so hot, I'm like, I immediately fact check that. I'm like, I don't think so. Somebody tells you how ugly they are, you're like, probably hot. Everything's mislabeled in life. Okay, so these are the hots, okay? This is where your stuff gets power. It has to have alternating current, but this is a breaker, okay? So what happens is, it gets power through that bar right there. It comes up through here, and there's a switch that turns it on and off. Then that goes to that right there, and that black wire is what brings power to your circuit. Yeah, you learned something, okay? So we're gonna open this up. I don't know if can you see that? See how that's opening up? Then we're gonna put a screw in there, like magic. All right, wire, I mean, sorry. I'm tired. I'll tighten that up. Now, this has a little hook in it. We're gonna hook that right here. Put it in place. It's off. But I happen to know that we're hooked up on that side. We're going to turn that on. Oh, look, no explosion. That's great. Now, we got this in the off position, which is important. We're going to open this up again. And then what happens? We'll stab that in there. And tighten it up. And snap it in place. Tuck this wire back in place, turn it on. Look at us, we figured stuff out as if by magic. Now, this one's different. This is an AFCI. Okay, AFCI is arc fault circuit interrupter, okay? So they've got, most of them these days are arc fault, ground fault. So the things that say test and reset on the plugs, those are GFCI, they're ground fault circuit interrupters. So if you're close to water, within 5 feet of water, and something goes to shock you, it trips it right there rather than having to go back to the breaker box and trip it, okay? So those have become legal for decades. AFCIs are relatively new, and they are, how do I put this? Expensive and irritating, okay? If there's an arc fault anywhere, it trips it. If you have appliances, and these appliances have a cycle to them, refrigerators, microwaves, garbage disposals, dishwashers, anything like that, and you have AFCI on it, it will trip it all the time. You're like, what's the matter with my thing? It's because they're like, oh, you have to put these everywhere. What a pain. I'm not going to say this, but a person could build a house, put in AFCIs, and then once they got their inspection, be like, cool, let's take this garbage out of here and put regular breakers back in. I would never do that, but if you wanted to, you could. Okay, so it's got this, usually it's a curly white wire, okay, and this goes into your neutral bar. But then you put your white wire in here and your black wire in here, and then that way, if there's it measures both of them. If it trips it, then it'll trip it right here. So that is how that works. And so we'll still put the ground on the ground bar like this. And we'll get that sucker up in there. So that's important that you ground it. Electricity, like me, is lazy. And so it's going to take the path of least resistance, okay? So if something bad happens, then it will go to the ground because that's easier for it. That's pretty convenient. Just the right length. Okay, so then what we'll do, I hope you guys are learning something. I'm assuming that anybody who doesn't care like stopped watching a long time ago. But for those of you that do care, I'm happy you're here. I hope you learned something. So once again, we're gonna put the white wire. So silver screws are for white, which is neutral, and you can tell that the silver screw goes right there, and that's where the white wire is. So it connects right there. And then brass screws are for black. Okay, so that's pretty standard stuff. We'll just hook this up. Difficult, but it is. There we go. It needs the little screwdriver. I apologize. This is a 6-in-1 screwdriver, which is magnificent because rather than me going, where's my small flathead? It's right here with all my other screwdrivers built in this one screwdriver. All right, so then this goes in here, but we're gonna snap this in first so it's off, so it doesn't like try to arc while we're putting it in. Okay. Snap in place like magic. And then we'll put this little curly cube right in here. Come on, girl. Ugh. And then we'll tighten it up. Now, that is loose. On. So, is there anything we plug in here? No. We'll test it for you later, but this goes to this outlet, these two go to those two outlets over there, and we'll have a fridge and a freezer. So I hope you learned something. You're welcome. Now let me get John for you. Hold on a second. Look over there. He really does know his stuff. I mean, this deep fake stuff is pretty cool. Thanks. Oh, hey there. So usually we show you the before and then we show you the after. But in this case, we're starting with the after. So this is the finished product. And then we're gonna go back in time and show you what it looked like before. It's gonna be really amazing. Now, to the guy who stole my camouflage jacket that was in a wheelchair, you can hide, but you can't run. Oh, hey there. So it's been about 28 minutes and I discovered something new today. I feel like we should learn something new every day. And what I learned today, Alan, do you know what it is?
I'm not real sure. I know what I learned today.
Okay, what's that?
I love chipping up floor tile. It is fun.
That reminds me of what I learned today. I learned today that you can't dry plates in the dryer. And this is what happens when you do. It's loud and it just shatters them. It's horrible. Then we got the dryer in the other room. I put all the plates in the dryer, bang, 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 and we just pulled them out, and it's like, this is not good. This is not good for the kitchen at all. Yeah, Alan's confused. Anyway, so we got the cabinets out, and we're taking the floor up, and that's amazing. And then we're gonna get all the rest of this tile up and all the mortar, and it's a real pain. And then, so we took the fur down there. Let me show you what that means. Okay, so there was a piece of sheetrock that came down here and over here, and then the cabinets went on those. Now, if you have standard cabinets, then the fur down is usually a foot. Okay, so it's 12 inches down, and then your cabinets come down another 30 inches right there. These were not standard cabinets, but on an 8-foot ceiling, if you take the fur down out, then you have 42-inch cabinets. And those are special order, but it's not that big a deal. So then you're here, and that's amazing. Now, we'll just leave that right there. You can stay there, tape measure. When you take down the fur down, there's usually a lot of stuff like this because the plumbers, electricians, everybody is like, ooh, let's cut some corners. And so they do. And so you got wires that are sticking through the wall, gas lines that are sticking through the wall, more wires, more wires, more wires, more wires. And it's a big fat mess. And so I don't love tearing out fur downs, but today we did. And my question for you is this. Do you feel like you're living to your full potential? Do you feel like you're doing exactly what you were made to do? Or do you feel like, maybe I could use a little bit of work on that? Because I don't feel like I'm doing my full. I feel like I'm about 4 to 6% of my potential. I'm constantly like, I could do more, but I'm really lazy. And so, that's my excuse. What's your excuse? Oh, hey there. So, I apologize for my eyes. I've got all kind of yuck in my eyeballs right now, and that I need to go home and clean them out. In the meantime, we got rid of all this stuff, put in the can lights for the most part, and then tore up this god-awful tile. So let me just ask you guys a question. I'll ask you too, Alan. Have you ever had horse milk?
Yes.
You had horse milk? Horse milk.
Horse milk? No. I thought you said voicemail.
No, voicemail is completely different. That makes it funnier.
That's what I heard.
Horse milk. We drink cow milk. I'm just wondering if anybody's had horse milk. No?
I've never seen a horse with a udder.
I don't know. I don't know how that works. I mean, they're mammals.
Well, I mean, they feed their foals, but
I guess I've never paid attention. So this further...
Have you Googled that?
I have not. But this further proves my theory that 4 out of 5 people make up 80% of the population. So I hope that helps. Oh, hey there. So we have made snail's progress. However, it's really been tremendous. Now, what we did is we had to jackhammer up. We use this tool right here, right? We had to jackhammer this up. All the tile, it was slate tile, so it had a lot of layers, and then all the mortar. Now, I did about 4 to 7% of this work, and Alan slapped me on the hand like this, and he said, the adults are having a conversation. He said, you go do kid stuff, and daddy's gonna take care of this. And then he did it all. Now he complained a little bit about how bad he hurt, and I was like this, adults hurt, Alan. That didn't really happen, kind of. So anyway, we had our electrician come in, kind of wire some things. We got these 4 lights in, and sorry, on that one there too, but we had to move it out of the way for tape bed. We put in a new window. We had to wire some things all over the place. But that's done now. So tomorrow, we'll hit another coat of tape and bed, we'll put the cabinets up, we'll lay the tile, get the dishwasher in, put that microwave in, and it will be amazing. Now, when I saw the texture here, let's just take a look up at the texture there, Alan. I told them it would be very difficult to match that texture since it's a hybrid of textures. And Alan, who is hilarious and very smart, said, John, that's unobtainium texture. At which point I laughed because it's unobtainable because it's so many layers of I think maybe they splatter dragged and then maybe
leftover acoustic scrape.
Then yes, scraped some acoustic, then scrape that off, then put some more splatter drag and then kind of rolled it. Anyway, it needs some help, but I'm not that help. We're gonna get it looking as smooth as we can and call it good. Anyway, so great day today, and we're very excited about tomorrow. I'm going to go play a show tonight. What are you doing, Alan?
Tonight, taking a shower.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too. First thing, I stink. I smell like, not good, like a hobo. Oh, hello. So, this morning, we gave another coat of tape in bed. We got the light back up in the thing, and we hung these cabinets, which is amazing. Now, when I hang cabinets, let me just show you something I think is really important. You have to make it level across here for the counter guys, or else they hate you. But wait, oh, what is this? Now that's interesting. Is that a note? What does that say, Alan? Let's take a look. Oh, this is a time capsule, isn't it? This says, oh, hey there. I got you this. It's a smile. Love, John, and then it has the date. What a wonderful thing to put in there. You know, I used to put skeletons, which I still think is hilarious, but other people have been like, that's irresponsible, and people are going to get shocked and call the police. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's funny. Anyway, I decided to put a nice note because, you know, I'm so tired of haters. I'm like, I'm going to make all the haters happy. Oh, hey there. What did the Iraqi girl say when her father gave her a bag? Alan?
A bath?
A bag.
A bag?
Thanks for the bag, Dad.
I wanted paper, not plastic.
Thanks for the bag, Dad. Anyway, so we're about to lay tile. We got the cabinets in, we're about to lay tile. Now, how do you do this, you might ask? Smart. We could just guess. We could start at one side, just keep going the other side. And here's what's going to happen. They're going to start to drift, and pretty soon you're like, over here looks good, and over there you got it's not pretty. Or we find a good center line that's straight, right in a good part that matters. So that's what we did. Here we've got a line that matters, so we've got a line chalked. And we've got another line chalked right here, so we're up against the cabinets full straight, and that goes in here so that then we can do the laundry room. Now, we have to think about this, otherwise you paint yourself in a corner and you can't get out, and that's dumb. I'm dumb, but that's not that dumb. So we're start here, work our way around, come back out, hit this, and then work our way out the door. And that is how it's done. So, we're gonna get started. All right, bye. Oh, hey there. So, we laid the tile. The key is, and a lot of people don't know this about laying tile, if you lay the last piece first, you save so much time. Am I wrong, Alan?
No, absolutely.
Right.
I mean,
a lot of people start with the first one, they keep going, and then they do the last one last. I'm like, sucker. That's rookie stuff, okay? We lay the last piece first, whole thing's done. It just fills in like a computer would do. Just, you set the parameters and that's the end of it. Now, somebody told me, several people throughout my life have told me, John, if you hold a shell up, you can hear the ocean. And when I held a shell up, I got 6 years in prison. So I do not recommend that. Wait, what?
huh? What?
Oh, you meant a shell and up to your ear, not like a shell gas tank. Yep. Oh, hey there. So now we're at the beginning of the job. Just kidding. We reversed that. So you remember we took out old cabinets and we took the fur down out, and then we put in all these lights. We took the fan out. We took the appliances out and put them back in. We put in this island. We took out the floor, put in a new floor. There's still some things that need to be done. They're going to do the counters themselves and the sink, faucet, garbage disposal, and backsplash, and some other cabinet knobs and things like that. But what a tremendous difference. And we did that in how long, Alan?
2 days.
28 minutes. 28 minutes.
28. Oh, I'm sorry.
28 minutes. We got to keep these people on a schedule.
It's kind of like when you're in elementary school, it just seemed like 28 days.
Yes, it seemed like 3.5 days, but really it's 28 minutes. Anyway, we have a construction clean right now. Now, construction clean is, we are dirty people, and dirty people trying to clean things, we have a certain amount of dirt on us and in us that we just can't get past that. So it's construction clean. Clean people have to come behind us and actually clean. I think there's a spiritual correlation there. I don't know.
Oh, hey there. So a lot of people have recently asked me, if I was to start reading the Bible, where would you start and why? And kind of explain it to me because I don't understand. And trust me, there's a time in my life where I'm like, please explain it to me. I don't understand. So I want to do that for you. If you already know the Bible, please move on. I don't feel like dealing with the criticism. But if you don't know what in the world it is, okay, the Old Testament is pretty much most of the Bible, okay? So Old Testament and New Testament. Now, Old Testament is from the beginning of the world up until Jesus, and the New Testament is from Jesus forward, okay? Now, the first part of the New Testament, there's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And these are the four Gospels. Okay, that is the story of Jesus. This is from the time he was born till the time he died and resurrected and then ascended back into heaven. So that is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's four different perspectives of the same story. So you might get to the end of Matthew and be like, I feel like I've read this before, when you're reading Mark, Luke, and John. But that's okay. It's four different perspectives, okay? Then there's Acts. Acts is the Acts of the Apostles. So this is after Jesus ascended back into heaven. Then what happened to the apostles after that? And up until Paul, or there's some other things. Then there are a bunch of letters that mostly Paul wrote, and Paul persecuted Christians. He hunted them down and he killed them until there was a conversion in his life, and then he became a Christian, and he wrote a good chunk of the New Testament. So he wrote Romans, which is a book. It's a letter that he wrote to the people in Rome. First and Second Corinthians. There was Corinth was a city. He wrote 2 letters to them. Galatians, Galatia was a place. Ephesians, Ephesus was a place, a huge city. Philippians, Philippi was another city. Colossians, Colossae. First and Second Thessalonians, 2 letters to Thessalonica. And then he wrote First and Second Timothy to a protege of his named Timothy, who he was like, let me encourage you and tell you good things, and also Titus and Philemon, and possibly Hebrews, but that's debated. That was written to Hebrews. So he wrote a big chunk of the New Testament, and it was just letters to Christian churches that he went and founded, and then said, hey, I've heard that you're doing these bad things. Let me set you straight, okay? The thing is, it was inspired by God, and so those same things that they were dealing with back then, we are dealing with now, and it really sets the stage and keeps us on our course, okay? Then there's James. Mary and Joseph had Jesus, obviously, but Jesus was God's son, and so while Mary was still a virgin. But then they had other children, and James was one of those children, and he wrote the book of James. It's 5 chapters, and a chapter is not a long part. A chapter can be just like a column, okay? And so it's probably 3 pages, something like that. The book of James is filled with great things. Like, if you could read that first, I would, which you can, you have that freedom. Then 1st and 2nd Peter was written by Peter. Peter was one of the disciples. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John was written by John, who also wrote the Gospel of John, and he wrote Revelation, and then Jude. And that is the New Testament. It sounds daunting. It is not. Like, you could read this very quickly. There are versions that you can understand that are in plain English. And if you have a question, ask me. I don't want to get into long, lengthy debates over minutia. But if you have a question about, like, hey, how does this work? Then that's how it works. Now, in the Old Testament, okay, there's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. That is the Torah. That is, some people call it the Pentateuch. So that got you from, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, okay? And then the stories up until that point, and then I'm going to have to go quickly through this, but then eventually Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, ended up in Egypt, and then Exodus was when they left Egypt. They exited Egypt. Leviticus is basically your law, the law of Moses. Numbers is, I wouldn't start there. Okay, it's important historically speaking and archaeologically speaking. It verifies a lot of facts, but if you don't know what the world you're talking about, you're gonna be like, why are they rambling on about this? And Deuteronomy kind of goes back over the law again. Joshua is when the people of Israel went back into the promised land, and Joshua led them in there. Judges, after that, they didn't have a king over Israel, and so the stories of Samson and things like this are in the book of Judges. And it said at that time, every man just did what was right in his own eyes, okay? And so from time to time, God would raise a judge up to set his people straight, okay? Ruth is an important story. There's 2 books in the Bible, Ruth and then Esther, that the female is the lead character. And they're very important because the lineage of Jesus is in this, right? But also amazing stories. 1st and 2nd Samuel. Samuel was a prophet, and this is what he wrote. 1st and 2nd Kings is a lot about the kings of Israel, okay? 1st and 2nd Chronicles, kind of the same thing. Those kind of repeat a little bit, and you'll be like, I felt like I just read this. Why am I reading this again? Because this is not really chronological. And so to that regard, it can be a little bit confusing. Then you have Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. Ezra and Nehemiah came back out of exile and helped to rebuild Jerusalem. Okay, and Esther, there's a holiday called Purim where there's a lot of miracles. It's actually an amazing story. Job, a lot of you guys are probably familiar with the story of Job. Job was a righteous man, and he felt like he was cursed from God. But then there's a real good story, because before that, people were like, if you do good, then good things happen. If you do bad, then bad things happen. And this was like, but this guy was good, and all these bad things happened to him. So really interesting story. Psalms, primarily written by David, King David. So the first king of Israel was Saul, and after that was David, and then after that was Solomon, and then the kingdom divided after that. But he wrote Psalms, which are songs, okay, that he wrote, and other people wrote as well, and those are labeled in there. Proverbs was a bunch of wise sayings written by Solomon, who was, a very wise king. He also wrote Ecclesiastes, which there's a lot of, there's a time to sow and a time to reap and a time to, all the times, right? And he's like, life is meaningless, so on and so forth. But he finds hope in the end of that. I just read that again recently. Song of Solomon, or Song of Songs, whichever, was also written by Solomon, and it's a love, it's almost like a play, okay? Then we have what is called major prophets, and they're just longer books. So Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and I think Daniel kind of falls into that. Daniel is apocalyptic. It also tells some stories, but there's a lot of end time prophecies in the book of Daniel. Lamentations is also in the middle of that. I apologize. Then there are what are called the minor prophets, and there's 12 of those. It's Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. And they're all important. They all tell good stories, but they're just shorter books, okay? And then from Malachi to Jesus, I think there was about 500 years where nothing was written. It was like God was silent. He wasn't really silent, but there was not a book put into the Bible at that point. So that is a very broad overview. I hope that helps you. I would, if you don't know what any of this is and you just want to start somewhere, I would probably start in the New Testament. You can start at the beginning, but you may get bogged down in numbers and be like, I don't understand any of this. Rightfully so. If you don't have history, if you don't have somebody to kind of step you through it, then you'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But the New Testament, you can get right in there. And here's the thing too, that not enough people talk about, and that is that the Bible is the living word of God. If I opened up a Bible, okay, so almost every time that I've done this, it's happened and it's been true, but before I got saved, I found a Bible, I opened it up, thought, whatever, randomly, and it said exactly what I was thinking at the time. I'm like, what are the odds of that? And basically every time I read the Bible, it's like God is talking to me, right? If I opened up a dictionary, if I thought, I'm thinking of the word, I don't know, any word, and I just randomly opened up a dictionary, the likelihood that I would land on that is so obscure, it's ridiculous. Even if I had the page marked, there would still be a margin of error. But in the Bible, it's like God is speaking to us. So I hope that helps. Oftentimes people are like, I don't know the answer, I'm like, well, look in the Word, right? There are Bible apps too, so you can look in there, but hardcover doesn't hurt. All right, love you guys. Hope that helps.